The Canadian Real Estate Association has lowered its forecast with respect to the Canadian real estate market. And this is no surprise, as it became apparent that a 0.2% reduction in home values wasn't actually what was going to happen. So now, subsequently, they've adjusted their forecast to reflect more in line with what is actually going to happen. And I am going to show you all the details of the numbers, the old ones, the new ones, and what is going on in the Canadian real estate market. But before I do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and hit that like button so more people like you can see this video. And if you're looking down there and you're saying, hey, I'm pretty sure I'm subscribed to Nolan's channel, but it says I'm not, well, that's because this is a brand new channel completely dedicated to Canadian real estate content. So if you aren't subscribed, click that subscribe button. And by the way, if you want to check out more wealth and finance tips, make sure you check out the other channel as well, which I'll link to in the description below. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's discuss the Canadian Real Estate Association's revised forecast. And this comes after they released their September update that shows some not so rosy momentum with respect to where the Canadian real estate market is going. But I'll get to that in a minute. But first, let's take a look at the news release and exactly what the Canadian media is saying with respect to the changes to the Canadian Real Estate Association's forecast. So the first thing you need to understand is the Canadian Real Estate Association lowered the forecast for this year. There's only 3 months basically remaining in the year, and they have now adjusted the forecast for the year, seeing that they can pretty much predict that they aren't going to hit the numbers that were previously revised down in April. And that's really no surprise here because the September listing numbers, especially in Toronto, were extremely high. The sales to new listing ratio went from 70% down to 50% in the last 5 months, which means there's more listings relative to sales than there were 5 months ago. And just in general, the higher interest rate effect is starting to take effect in the Canadian real estate market. So what do the new numbers look like? Well, first, they are now expecting a 9.8% decrease in sales compared to last year. That's sales, not prices. There's a big distinction there. The change in prices is actually predicted to be a negative 3.3% change compared to last year. Now, why is there a discrepancy here? Well, obviously because of the supply numbers. There's not enough supply to house the number of people who are coming into Canada and the people who are already here and where they want to live. So now the projected average home price is $680,686. Now the previous forecasts were for a 6.8% decline in sales and a 0.2% decline in prices. And obviously with the amount of new listings and the reduced activity, these are not numbers that are going to be hit. So if we take a look at the charts, here's what that looks like visually. As you can see, the sales activity is expected to be significantly lower than 2022 and a heck of a lot lower than 2021, which was an incredibly busy year. Now, they are now forecasting that the 2024 numbers will be higher than the 2023 numbers. This is largely predicated on the expectation that interest rates are going to remain about the same or start to come down as we head into 2024. If interest rates continue to go up, that could change this picture significantly. So with respect to pricing, you can see that the Canadian prices are expected to again come down 3.3%. The majority of the decline in prices is expected to be in British Columbia at negative 2.4%, Saskatchewan at negative 1.4%, Manitoba at negative 2.8%, but the big one here is Ontario at negative 6.2%. And there are still provinces like Alberta, Quebec, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and Newfoundland where prices are still expected to go up. But as you can see for 2024, they're expecting big increases in prices pretty much across the country. And when I say big, I mean 1.5 to 2%, and specifically in Alberta, 4.8%. And while these might seem like low numbers, they are significant compared to the previous year and what they're expecting for 2023. And again, what you have to understand here is that these are forecasts, not predictions, not fortune telling. This is based on the best guess of the Canadian Real Estate Association's economists. Now, an important thing to note here is that when you ask a real estate organization what is going to happen with respect to real estate, they're going to always paint a rosier picture. If you ask the insurance companies what's going to happen with respect to insurance, they're always going to paint a rosier picture. If you ask bank economists what they think is going to happen with real estate, they might not paint as rosy of a picture. And if you ask academic economists what they think is going to happen with respect to real estate, and they have no associations to real estate or mortgage companies or banks, they might paint a completely different picture as well. So the source of the information often dictates how accurate it is and what kind of skew it might have with respect to what is actually going to happen in the market. So you have to take these forecasts with a grain of salt. And the other big thing here is that if something catastrophic happens in the economy that is unexpected, it could completely throw these forecasts completely out the window. It could also throw the Bank of Canada's forecast with respect to interest rates completely out the window. It is the things that are unexpected that have a major effect on the economy that change these forecasts quickly. And by the way, that could go in both directions. There could be catastrophic events that cause the real estate values to go up just as much as there could be things that cause it to go down. So the question then becomes, how do you go about making a buying decision based on where you are at right now and based on all of the noise with respect to these forecasts? Well, you have to make them based on the information that you have about your own current situation. You cannot affect interest rates. You cannot affect the direction of the market. You can affect whether home prices go up another 15, 20%, and you can affect whether or not they go down 10, 15, 20%. The only thing that you have control of is your own personal situation. So when you are making buying decisions, well, it may be smart to take a look at what's going on in the market and avoid buying in crazy markets where you're bidding against 10 other people. When you are in a normal market where things aren't completely crazy, the way that you should be making a decision to buy is by looking at your own personal circumstances, your long-term horizon, and whether or not the home that you are buying is one that you will be able to afford for the long term. And if it seems like it's impossible to get into the market that you're looking at, it might be worth looking at buying a starter home or a home that maybe doesn't completely meet your needs right now, but at some point will gain some equity and will allow you to purchase the house that you actually want to live in the next 10 to 15 years. But this all comes down to affordability and being prepared for the worst if it happens. That's not to say that the worst will happen, but being prepared, knowing that you have a backup plan, knowing that you're in the market just in case housing prices go up because of the lack of supply that we have, is definitely, at least in my opinion, better than staying out of the market and hoping for housing prices to crash and then them not crashing. Oh, and if you want to see some information on the crash that probably already happened, well, make sure you check out this video right here.